Well, this is my friend Alina, and she did a passage about a year and a half ago in the fall, and she was 13 at that time. So she really has pioneered for the Crestone community here, doing a sacred passage in many ways at that age. Although traditionally, did you know that most people in Native American cultures, they do it at 13, 14, 15, 16.
We had talked about that before we went out.
Yeah. And you have a wonderful piece of work here working with your mom's martial arts school in Crestone. Wonderful school. And they also teach some great things like we do with Qigong and stuff like that. And you teach amongst your kids.
Yeah.
Here in Crestone.
We got 6 to 12-year-olds, and we also have adult programs, but mainly kids.
Yeah. So how did you come to do a passage? How did that happen? How did it come to be?
I remember my mom had mentioned to me, we had just moved to Crestone, so I didn't know very many people here. My mom was like, hey, there's these people here, and they have these nature passages, and you could go out and just be by yourself and spend some time alone in nature for a week. And I was like, that sounds really cool. I would love to do that. And it all happened pretty quickly. A few weeks after I had learned about it, we had the training with some friends from all over the world.
It was a pretty broad group, as I recall. Pretty international.
I was the youngest person there, though. And there were how many days of training before?
I think we had about 3 or 4 days of training, and then we had roughly a week of alone time.
Right.
Yeah.
So we kind of had a week of getting to know everyone and feeling comfortable and asking all the questions that we needed to ask.
So was it a desire to be alone and have some time to yourself and take a little deeper dive into yourself and who you really are?
Yes, and I feel like that's what I definitely got out of it, because I was with myself in such a quiet place, and it was definitely very challenging being with yourself for that long, but I would absolutely do it again. I would love to do it again. I was very anxious to get into my all one time when we were doing the camp all together.
Well, that's one of the cool things, by the way, that we used to call it the alone time or the solo time. And you just said it correctly. You said the all one time. And so we decided to, because the people's experience is not so much that they're alone or in solitude. They're actually surrounded by all this life, birds and chipmunks and squirrels and so on. Trees.
I was super, super anxious, and so I got my tent set up, and I got like all my pillows and stuff in my sleeping bag put in the right spot in my tent, and that didn't take me very long, only about an hour or so, and I was like, man, what am I going to do now, because I don't have anything else, and I had a bit of a freak out, because I was like...
In the beginning.
Yeah, I thought about how much time was really in a day, and how much time I spend doing school, and going to the store, teaching in the dojo.
And you were at that point, what grade were you in school?
I was in 8th grade.
8th?
Yeah.
Okay.
In 8th grade. In 7th grade.
7th.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I didn't have my phone or TV or anything like that, which that's also a time filler.
Part of the deal. No phones, no computers, no distractions.
Yeah. I was very undistracted. And so I really had to learn to be happy with the present moment.
And with yourself.
And with myself in that moment. And it was really nice reading Your Sky Above, Earth Below book.
Yeah.
and like reading some of the stories and relating to your experiences.
Oh, cool.
I read like every night before I went to sleep. I read your book.
Great.
But there was lots of meditating and just being chill in nature. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any animals come visit?
I did. There were lots of birds and like small critters and squirrels and such. But I had some coyotes. I was right on the creek, and so they would come and drink. Sometimes if I woke up really early, right as the sun was coming up, I would see them. And then on the last night that I was there, I had gotten so comfortable in my tent that there were two doors in the front and in the back, and I opened them both up, and I still leave both of them open. And before I had fully dozed off to sleep, this bobcat came.
Wow.
And
I remember you told me about that.
It came, I felt it brush up against the side of my tent, and I kind of was like, oh, what was that? And then it came, and I saw just like a dark, big mound, and then it stuck its face into my tent, and I could see, I was like, oh, wow. And then we just had a little moment of a few seconds, and then I walked away.
Did you look into its eyes?
Mm-hmm.
It looked into your eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, when that happens, we say that could be what's called a totemic connection, where a particular kind of animal or being from nature has a special relationship with you. Mm-hmm. And if it, especially if you share through the eyes, that connection can be very strong.
Yeah. I wasn't like shocked or like scared.
No
I was
fear.
just like, oh, what's up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had an experience myself. I think it must be about 2 years ago. I was sitting on a meditation seat. We have a lot of stone seats for meditation, made by ancient peoples.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there just enjoying the meditation, and suddenly I heard a sound off to my left. I looked over, and a really big wolf came out of the forest.
Here?
Yeah, here. We're not supposed to have wolves.
Yeah.
And I know wolves because I've worked in Alaska and northern Canada quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And it came over to me and came right next to me, and just right there. And then it turned its head up and looked at me like this. And beautiful golden brown eyes, just gorgeous. And then we kind of shared that connection, and the thought came to me, and I said out loud, "Hi, how you doing?" And the wolf looked at me more intently, and then I've had a thought in my mind came into it. I think it felt like it was being transferred. Mm-hmm. And it said, "I'm doing great. Great to meet you," or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then with that kind of deepened the connection through the eyes. Mm-hmm. And then after maybe, I don't know, a minute or so, we could tell it was kind of complete. And then very gently moved off into the forest on the other side. Wow. And disappeared.
That's cool.
And they're said to bring in spiritual community. And this was at a point where a number of us in the Way of Nature community were beginning to think more about how do we form a larger international global community. Mm-hmm. And I felt I wanted to bring the gift of what you experienced and what I've experienced and many of us have to a lot more people. And so this wolf came just at the moment when I was trying to think about it. It's really time to broaden out that larger community on a global basis.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
And for you, the bobcat, I think it was bobcat or lynx?
It was a bobcat.
Bobcat.
Yeah, for sure.
And that often, did you get a sense of what it might have meant? Or?
Well, it was funny because that day, like I said, it was my last day, and I was really struggling, and I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I was honestly considering like going back because I was like, this is too much. I've been here for too long, and it was very mentally challenging for me. Yeah. But I made it through the day, and I don't know, I feel like it had to do with me overcoming that struggle. And I was thinking I'd been thinking about my mom a lot that day. And like, oh, as soon as I get done, I can go and see my family. I was really excited. And my mom and I have like kind of a connection through bobcats. I feel like the bobcat's like coming to visit me as my mom.
Cool.
I'm like, you can do this. It's
That's
just
great.
the rest of the night. Yeah.
That's great. So something around family and intimacy, and also maybe it helped you discover the inner strength in yourself that is normally ignored.
Yeah.
Or not recognized.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely went into my nature journey with an idea of how it was going to go. And it did not go that way at all. Yeah. I was very surprised in some good ways, but in some surprising, shocking ways. But I was very warm and comfortable, and honestly, I just wanted to keep being in nature after I was done.
I noticed that you almost didn't want to head back.
Yeah. I was walking around with no shoes on. It was funny because a few days after I had been done, we took a trip to Denver, and I was like, oh gosh, I can't wait to get back home.
Yeah, when you go to a big city after something like that, you see that people are often living very distracted, very contracted, lots of fear, lots of anger.
It was very loud.
Lots of anxiety, tension, and noise. Yeah. No silence, no space, no peace. You
feel really not anxious, and so things happening fast, loud, all the time is a lot.
And we normally don't perceive it. We kind of put up these shields, kind of deaden ourselves, and then we don't experience it.
Yeah. I would say so.
Yep. We say in the way of nature that we're really working with the three natures. Outer nature in the world of plants and animals and stones and everything else in the world of life. And then we have the inner nature, which is our emotions, our perceptions, our thoughts. And then we have the true nature, which is the level of which most great traditions point out as a level of pure consciousness or pure being, pure awareness. And normally we don't experience that because we're so busy with doing stuff in the world. Good, many things to do, people to see, things to take care of, making a living, coming into this world. You're going through school and you've got all that, and then you're teaching on top of that. Lots of responsibilities. So there are many things that fill your awareness. And it's very hard to make that contact with just a state of pure being without anything necessary that you have to do. Just being there. Right. And in the beginning, as you were saying, it can be a little boring. Yeah. I
felt very in tune with myself after the week. And I got on a good rhythm of waking up and going to sleep with the sun. And drinking off the creek was really nice. Yeah. That felt like I was in tune with this
great water. Great water.
And
did you bathe?
Yes, in the creek every day. Okay. It was very nice. And I walked around without my shoes on. I was sleeping on the earth, so I was very much an earthy girl. Yeah.
And lots of sun, beautiful sun.
Yeah. And it was nice because usually we get a lot of mosquitoes, but there weren't too many. Yeah, it was like the perfect time. Not too hot, not too cold. Yeah, I remember.
I lived there myself for over 20 years. Along that little creek. Yeah. And so I got to be there summer, spring, winter, and fall. But I would escape sometimes in the winter.
Yeah.
For a little while. Yeah, very, I ask people sometimes, what's the longest you've been alone? They say, maybe, I did have one afternoon where I was in the apartment and nobody was there and I was on my own. And then I say, how long have you been alone in nature without buildings or cars or all that stuff? And they say, well, I remember one time my dad took me fishing and I had maybe half an hour. I was going to get some stuff, bring back to the fish camp. And so for most people, being alone in nature is a very rare experience. And as a result, they don't really have much comprehension of what it might be like or why it might be helpful. What would you say to those folks?
I would definitely recommend to everyone on this earth to go outside, because I find that if I'm having trouble in my schedule or in my life or with anything, having a place to go that's quiet and where you're not going to be judged and you can just be with your thoughts is really important. And like the scenery makes it even better. Yeah.
It's nice to be in a beautiful environment in nature too. Has it changed how you relate to nature around your home? Is also in a very beautiful spot. You and your mom have an amazing place. And so is it supported having kind of a fresh way to relate to the trees and the rocks and the birds?
I would say so. I really enjoy going outside. And I feel like I've always made it, it's always been really important to me, especially after going on my nature journey, to spend time outside. As much as I can.
You know, what I find is when I have some alone time like that, or all one time, as you said, if I have a lot of questions about what am I doing? Was this the right thing? And a deeper question, of course, is often, who am I really? Underneath all the things my folks have told me I am, my friends tell me I am, or my work, my job tells me what I should be. What's underneath all that? Who am I really? And the Native American peoples, most traditional cultures, did something very similar to what you do. It's called a vision quest. And the three questions are, who am I? What am I here for? And what do I really want to give my life to? From the inside out. Interesting, huh?
I feel like those are three really good questions that you could definitely spend a lot of time thinking about outside.
And if you have a lot of preconceived ideas about those questions, there's no space to listen to an answer from a deeper level of yourself. So I think in a way that's part of what this gives. That's what other people have told me anyway. Get some deeper answers, those deep questions.
Yeah, you really see different aspects of yourself, I feel like, because if you don't spend a lot of time alone, I really saw how like you can take on other people and like other people's personalities or other people's lifestyles, getting caught up in the mix with living your own life, and you really see different aspects of yourself that are commonly probably hidden when you're by yourself. Like that.
Yeah, get a fresh insight. Another thing that one of the reasons I'm doing this work is partly to help people and give them a kind of a fresh, more free experience of who and what they are. And create this space for something truly truthful and authentic for themselves to come from the inside out, without being told what they're supposed to be. And the other thing is that we're entering into a time, I'm sure you've heard about the climate change stuff and the environmental problems. It occurred to me, I get very involved with helping bring on the environmental movement back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I helped formulate a lot of the early legislation, like the Environmental Policy Act. And I discovered that through politics, all that work could be changed in just a few years if people didn't have a real commitment to doing something for not just themselves, but for the planet. So I began doing these, what you did, when I was about 7. And because of that experience, I kept doing it, year after year after year, going deeper and deeper. And I finally came to the conclusion that the most important thing I could do with my life would be to bring people into a much deeper, more loving relationship with the rest of life. That if we had that, all these other problems probably would come to a much more balanced and harmonious state. Because we'd start treating each other more like a family.
Yeah.
And so that's personally one of the reasons I get involved with this.
Yeah, it was really nice, like meeting with the group and then coming out and seeing everyone and like knowing that we all.
Yeah, we shared the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went through some sort of like experience.
It's interesting. Did you notice there's kind of a bonding that happens? And when you were on your solo, you had a buddy. Right?
Yeah.
So you're alone, but you also have kind of a feeling of connection through. There's somebody there that's kind of making sure that if something is a problem, you're taken care of. They're going to cover for you.
Right.
And I think you had a buddy as another woman. And she, by the way, is down in Guatemala now.
Oh, wow.
She has a place on the lake down there.
That's amazing.
That's it on. But you kind of bonded through that.
Yeah.
And what did you do to kind of look out for each other and not see each other at the same time?
We actually drew each other a lot of pictures. And I think we both wrote some poetry for each other. But we had a little knot tying system. And I think I was the evening. I would go over to our little log in the evening and tie my knot. Or sometimes Kenzie would leave like a stack of sticks and like leaves in a nice way.
Yeah.
And we would have
like a little altar almost.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was
so
nice.
you had little gifts for each other. And how did that help give you the knowledge that you'd be okay no matter what?
I felt like it was nice because I was very much in my own little place and we didn't see each other.
Yep.
But...
And you never talked.
Yeah. I had the thought of her in my mind, so I knew that she...
So it gives kind of a little bit of a security.
Yeah.
That's great. And then one person goes in the morning and one goes in the afternoon to do the knot tying. Yeah. Or untying.
It was untying. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to, by the way, tie knots. We had a little cord. We'd tie 7 knots for 7 days. Yeah. And then after the 7th knot, we'd be finished to come back. And then I realized actually what we're doing when we're out there
is untying knots.
We're untying the knots in our system.
Yeah.
So we changed it from that to having 7 knots in the beginning, and each day one knot would be untied to represent the liberation of all the stuff we hold in our psyches. While you're out there in the solitude and the beauty of the all one time, what did you do during the waking hours?
I started my day off with some qigong, and I didn't eat so much. I wasn't doing very many active things, so I ate very little. But starting off, I would do qigong as the sun rose, and then lots of meditating and just sitting. I was really enjoying sitting in the sun and doing yoga
such a good
in the
feeling.
sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day I would go in the creek for a little while and wash my hair out.
Did you notice how you felt after you were in the water, the creek?
Very refreshed.
It's amazing. It's not like going in a shower at a house.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah, it was really nice. I made lots of art. I drew, there were like little plants and flowers around, and I made some mandalas and such for my buddy.
Oh.
I read your book, and during the training that we did beforehand, you had given some practices and some meditations and things to do. So it was very chill. Just chill all day. Yeah.
Great. So you kind of flowed from one thing to another.
Mm-hmm.
But there was always something that could be a focus for the one time.
Mm-hmm.
One day it might be just enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
And another day it might be watching the squirrels play with each other in the forest. So much creativity comes up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe there or maybe right afterwards.
Right.
Just this huge pouring up of creativity,
right.
like drawing in the art stuff you were doing.
Finding that clarity to have your own authentic voice as an artist.
So are you doing some art now?
Yeah. I have a tattoo apprenticeship.
Oh.
I started a month ago, coming up on my second month. But I have always made a lot of art, and I'm very much an artist.
Yeah, you mentioned you were drawing the mandalas out there.
Yeah.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Some people have come back with songs and poetry and beautiful things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one thing it'd be great to mention briefly is I think you had learned the Tai Chi for Liberation by then.
Yeah.
Could you say something about that?
It was really nice doing Qigong like every day, and I really looked forward to my morning, midday, and evening practice.
So you were doing Tai Chi for Liberation as well?
Mm-hmm. And it was also really nice learning even some of the other forms with the group. And I feel like when we all came out and like talking together about our different experiences doing the different practices was really nice.
And sharing
really
what
cool.
the effects were. And
yeah. So. It was, some people talked about like feeling, just like the different feelings that would come and like tuning into like your surroundings around you and the dirt or the wind or
the
like
elements.
the sound of the trees.
Yeah.
And I feel like that made it even more like, that made me have like a deeper connection to everyone.
Yeah.
Knowing that like we all were kind of doing like the same things a little
bit. And
bit.
each had slightly unique experiences.
I wonder, do you know what type of tree is on that site? The big...
Oh, there's a very large spruce tree.
Yeah.
And then there's also nearby a fir tree, big fir tree. A lot of pinon pines that have nuts. And then a kind of juniper.
I'm pretty sure it was the big spruce tree. I would put my feet, I would lay on the ground and put my feet up it and look at the branches in the sky. Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of time doing that.
What was it like to meditate on the sky?
It's really nice. You really, I feel like kind of, you're not thinking about like time.
Yep.
And so you could do it for so long and like not even know.
Yeah.
Like you look back at the sun and it has moved like so far.
Yeah, to get so far and it was just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, that actually is a practice that in Tibet they do a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you a feeling of inner space and clarity.
Yeah.
And it also helps to open up an inner space that provides a foundation for those things we talked about, your inner truth to come out and show its face. So it's pretty cool.
It was nice, like bathing in the water. I felt like my skin was like really different after I came out of that.
More silky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, having like skin bumps. Like I didn't have any like bumps or anything.
Yeah.
Or like even like acne on my face. My skin like cleared up a lot.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I felt like very refreshed. Like I
clean and clear.
Cleared my yeah. Yeah. I felt very much like in touch with my inner child, you could say, because I was like playing in the dirt and like I had my shoes off and I was really just myself in the woods.
Yep.
And I was able to be myself.
Cool.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts that you'd like to share with this more global community that might be helpful to them, especially young people?
Everyone is definitely going to have a very different experience going through this. But in the end, I think it would be a very positive thing for everyone. And I think that everyone should experience at least once. But if you experience it once, you might want to do it again. And yeah, it's life-changing for the better. And it helps you gain perspective on things that you might have questions on. And I'm very glad that I did what I did.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll find a chance for you to do it again.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing so much with really an international, global audience.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a pioneer. Well, by the way, I did have a couple of people I put out even younger than yourself.
Oh.
Did you know?
I would love to meet them one day.
I had a family that had given birth, I think about 6 months prior to my meeting them.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, could we go and do a passage with you? This is in Sweden.
Oh.
And so I put the family, the mom, the dad, each had their solo camps.
Mm-hmm.
The mom stayed with the baby most of the time. But then some of the time the baby spent with the dad in the solo camps. And then they had a period of time each day when they would put the baby on a bed of beautiful moss on the edge of a lovely, gorgeous lake.
Wow.
And the baby would lie in the bed of moss and just be kind of going gaga about how beautiful the spot that she was lying in.
Wow.
And of course the parents would keep an eye on the baby from a distance. And there was never a problem. So they had 3 of them. That was the youngest 6-year-old or 6-month-old passenger that we ever had.
That's amazing.
But you definitely pioneered some territory. I think a classical age to do this is exactly when you did it.
Mm-hmm.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, or 18.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ideal years for the first one. And then some people do another one when they're entering into a family period.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to kind of get a direction for I'm about to have a family, going to get married or I'm married, maybe about to have children. And I'd like to get some deeper insight about the direction of my life in this new period for my life.
Yeah.
And then there's often a period when maybe you've had your family, you've had some children, you're feeling like you've made a contribution, but then you realize that there's a broader picture that your family is part of in the culture, in the country, and in the environment, and in the nature that surrounds you. And you begin to say to yourself, well, I'd like to do something for the bigger picture. And they do a sacred passage at that time, or a vision quest. And then there comes a period, maybe towards the end of your life, or later in your life, when you're freed up from the family responsibilities, and you can actually take a deep dive into a deeper spiritual truth for yourself. And maybe you do another passage at that time. And then at the very end of your life, when you know maybe you just have a few more years to go, you have a final one to prepare for passing out of this lifetime. I remember one year, I was up in northern Arizona, a woman came to me who was in her late 80s. She knew she only had a couple more years to live.
Mm-hmm.
She said, John, I'd like to do a final sacred passage for the end of my life to prepare for the entry into what comes afterwards. So we set it up for her, and it was fantastic. She lived for another 2 or 3 years, and she had a very strong eagle connection. Eagle came in for her.
Oh, wow.
And it's very powerful.
That's amazing.
So there's those phases that come after the first one during the teenage years as well. But you're a pioneer for that first one.